Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into an analysis that was really sparked by a listener's question.
Yeah.
And it's a question that puts you right at the center of this huge, historic shift happening in software engineering.
It really does.
So our mission is to take these very practical, foundational questions, we're talking AWS, certifications, and see how they hold up against this tidal wave of AI-driven coding.
And that's the tension, right? Because the sources we're looking at are almost in conflict. We have a student who has done everything right. They've mastered IAM, EC2, S3, RDS, DynamoDB.
The building blocks, the reliable stuff.
Exactly, the reliable stuff. But they're asking what to do next right at the moment when industry leaders like Andrej Karpathy and Ben Stancil are saying that the future is fundamentally unreliable. It's all about AI automation.
So we have this really solid career advice from Pradeep on one hand, and then these frankly, almost alarming perspectives from Karpathy and Stancil on the other. They're suggesting that the pace of change is becoming deflationary, that today's perfect solution is basically tomorrow's legacy code.
It's like you're learning classical music theory while the instruments are inventing themselves every single week. It's a tough spot to be in.
It is. Okay, so let's start with the student's first question. It's a classic one. They ask, from an industry point of view, how much value does an AWS certification actually have compared to building hands-on projects?
Yeah, the paper versus practice debate.
Right. Is it just a hoop you have to jump through?
And Pradeep gives a very direct, very pragmatic answer. He says, look, at an industry scale, that certification is still highly sought after. It really is.
So it's still worth getting.
Absolutely. It shows you're committed, it gives teams a common language, and it gives you a baseline, a map of the territory, you know?
But doesn't that run the risk of becoming, just paper certified? You spend all this time on diagrams and definitions, and meanwhile the world of AI agents is just exploding.
Well, that's where he says it's not an either-or thing. That's the key. He says you should be doing both in increments. The cert forces you to learn the breadth of the ecosystem, all the tools in the toolbox. But the projects, they force you to get depth. You have to actually build something, solve a specific problem.
So the certification is the map, and the project is the road trip where you actually learn to drive.
Perfect analogy. And he makes a practical point, too. AWS often gives you a voucher for your next exam, so it creates this self-sustaining loop of learning.
Okay, so that seems like a solid foundation. The certification is your institutional entry ticket, even if the real skill comes from the projects.
Exactly. And you need that foundational knowledge. You need to know how S3 works, how a VPC is structured. Those are the guardrails for when you start telling an AI to build you something. You need to know the laws of physics before you ask an AI to design a plane.
That makes a lot of sense. But that brings us to the second question. This is where it gets much deeper. The student asks, as a student, how can I identify real-world problems to work on?
Yes. The hardest part for any beginner.
Because you don't have access to big enterprise problems. What do you build?
And this is the pivot. This is where Pradeep's advice really starts to connect with those bigger industry shifts. He says a real-world problem is something that nobody has any incentive to do.
Wait, say that again. Something nobody wants to do.
Yep. It's the same old boring stuff that you wish someone did it for you. That's a direct quote.
I love that. So the best project isn't some super complex microservice architecture. It's the thing that wastes 5 minutes of your day every single day.
That's it. That's the insight. He gave a personal example. He used to spend hours summarizing long videos for his work. It was tedious, it was repetitive, and nobody was going to pay him to solve that specific problem.
So he just solved it for himself?
He solved it for himself. He used a tool, Notebook LM in this case, to create a knowledge hub. But the tool isn't the point. The point is he identified a piece of friction in his own life and removed it.
He was being a high agency person, as Pradeep calls it.
Precisely. That's the ultimate goal. Don't wait for a manager to give you a task. Find your own annoyances and build your own solutions. Because in the age of AI, the hard part isn't the coding anymore. It's defining the mission.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. Find the right problem. Now let's bring in Andrej Karpathy, because his perspective really explains why this shift to problem finding is so urgent.
Oh yeah, Karpathy's post was, it felt like an emergency broadcast. Here you have one of the most respected minds in AI, and he just flat out confesses, I've never felt this much behind as a programmer.
That's a stunning admission.
It is. He says the whole profession is being dramatically refactored.
Dramatically refactored. That's way beyond just, using an AI to suggest a function name. What's the real shift he's seeing?
He's arguing that the actual code a human writes is becoming sparse. The new job, the new skill, is mastering what he calls a new programmable layer of abstraction.
And that's not just prompting, right?
No. It's much more complex. It's designing these workflows with agents and subagents, managing their memory, their context, all of it.
So you're not the chef anymore. You're the factory supervisor who's managing an assembly line of robots.
A great way to put it. And the problem is, these robots are, in his words, fundamentally stochastic, fallible, unintelligible, and changing.
Okay, let's pause on stochastic. For our listener who just mastered the beautiful, predictable logic of, say, DynamoDB, what does it mean for your tools to be stochastic?
It just means probabilistic, unpredictable. An EC2 instance, you configure it, it does the same thing every time. An AI agent might work perfectly 95% of the time.
But that other 5%.
That other 5% is a mystery. It's subtle, it's context-dependent, and it's unpredictable. Carpathy is basically saying your job is no longer just fixing bugs, it's managing the inherent unreliability of your tools.
Wow. But he also says a programmer could be 10x more powerful with these tools. That's a massive claim.
It is, but here's the crucial nuance. Carpathy himself, the guy who coined the term vibe coding, admitted that his recent project, NanoChat, was basically entirely handwritten.
So even he couldn't get the agents to work for his specific use case.
He said they just didn't work well enough at all. And that's the conflict right there. You have this 10x promise colliding with the reality that for nuanced, complex work, the human still has to write the reliable code.
But then you see these industry numbers. Sundar Pichai at Google says AI is writing over 30% of their new code.
And Dario Amodei at Anthropic claimed Claude was writing 90% of their code. 90.
That's a huge variance. And then you have that METR study that found AI assistants actually decreased productivity for experienced developers by 19%.
Right, and that tells you everything. Just having the tool isn't enough. If you're an expert working in a complex existing code base, a fallible AI might just slow you down. It creates more problems than it solves.
Which brings us back to Pradeep's advice.
Yeah.
Find the right problem. The value is shifting from the person who can code to the person who can define and scope the problem for these powerful but flawed tools.
And if the cost of generating a solution is dropping so fast, what does that do to the value of that solution? This is where Ben Stansel's idea of tech deflation is so, well, terrifying.
Explain that analogy.
So in economics, deflation is bad. If prices are always falling, you just wait to buy things, right? You save your money because it'll be worth more tomorrow.
Okay.
Stansel says the same thing is happening in tech. If the cost of building a feature drops by, say, 10% every month, why would you build it today? You just wait.
So an investor would be crazy to fund a startup today.
If they know that in 6 months, a new AI model can build the whole thing better, faster, and for a fraction of the cost. Stansel said the comfortable physics of Silicon Valley broke utterly.
And he experienced this himself, right?
Oh, yeah. He said he tried to get a new AI model, like Opus 4.5, to improve his current app, and it worked.
Right.
Okay, but then he'd tell it to just build a fresh version from scratch.
And the new version was just better.
Immediately. Better, more durable, and faster. It's this painful realization that the new AI is actually handicapped by having to work with the mess that the last AI made.
It's tech debt on hyperspeed.
That's his brutal conclusion. Today's frontier is tomorrow's tech debt. And he asks this killer question. If you started a startup in 2023, do you wish you were starting it today? And the answer is almost certainly yes.
Which means the only durable value isn't in mastering the solution, which is obsolete in months, but in identifying a durable problem.
We're full circle. Back to the student. That AWS knowledge isn't worthless. Not at all. Its role just changes. It becomes the knowledge of the constraints, the costs, the infrastructure, the guardrails for these fallible AIs.
And Pradeep's final point ties it all together. The most important thing today is finding the right problem to solve. The technical skills are your grammar, but identifying the problem, that's the poetry.
And he makes it really concrete. He says, look at the student's biggest problem right now, finding a job. You can tackle that by solving all the small, annoying problems that go with it.
Like what? What are these small, overlooked problems?
Well, think about it. Constantly tweaking your resume for every application, trying to find which companies are even hiring, researching a company before an interview, organizing your networking.
All that tedious stuff nobody wants to do.
The stuff nobody has an incentive to solve for you. But with these new tools, the barrier to creating a little script or app to automate that stuff is almost zero. You can solve your own friction.
And in doing so, you demonstrate that high agency skill we were talking about.
Exactly. He suggests using hackathons. They're the perfect training ground. You solve your own problems, you practice being that factory supervisor Karpathy described, and you build a real portfolio.
It really does crystallize the whole thing. The AWS cert gives you the reliable grammar, but the AI tools are rewriting the language of implementation every single day.
The value is shifting from the person who builds the engine to the person who figures out where the car should go.
This has to be an incredibly challenging but also leveraged time to be starting out. I love Karpathy's line. A powerful alien tool was handed around, except it comes with no manual.
Mm.
The job security isn't in knowing a manual that doesn't even exist. It's in being the person who figures out what the alien tool should be building in the first place.
That's right. The foundational knowledge helps you manage the chaos, but the vision defines the success.
So our final thought for you, the learner, is this. Stop looking for a problem to fit the AWS service you just learned. Turn that gaze inward. What is the tedious, repetitive, annoying little thing you hate doing every single day? That's your project. Stop waiting for the manual. Start defining the mission.